Hey everyone, I just figured I'd make this video quick to share what I've been working on for the audio mentoring project. The audio mentoring project was this 8 call long uh, mentoring program essentially, where by the end you do a little collab and you work on your own project of your choosing. And I chose to look into the Unreal Engine's new Granular Synth component and build a stateless weather machine based off that component. So let me just play here. So this is a real-time weather system that I made using granular synths. There's 2 granular synths running at any time, one for storm ambience and one for wind ambience. And then you'll see we'll have raindrops spawning to kind of fill in that ambient sound, and then thunder and wind gusts randomly spawning as well. So before I go into explain it, I'll just play with some knobs and let you give a listen here. So let's get this started here. Okay, so that's the gist of it. The idea behind this was that instead of having to do discrete states of weather, for example, like clear, light rain, medium rain, heavy rain, and then this, states for various weather, you could actually just specify values, and the granular synth would create that ambience for you. So the storm intensity right now is just a granular synth that's using a wave file that is a consistently building from no rain to extremely heavy rain, just a constant building of rain ambience until it hits that very max intensity. Same with the wind intensity. So what you can hear, if I get rid of all the raindrops and everything out of this and just let you hear the ambience, you can hear that it consistently builds up to the very max, and the granular synth is picking spots in this wave file based on the intensity value and creating the ambience that way. Still some tweaks I gotta make to the audio file and some of the granular settings. You can kind of hear some phasing issues as you scrub through, making transitions sound a little off. That I gotta work on tweaking that. Wind is, I seem to have messed up the thunder volume, but whatever. Wind is the same thing. The only thing with wind that I would like to work on is that there doesn't seem to be enough range of wind intensities. But that's probably going to be more heavily based in the wind gusts than the actual ambience. So if you listen to this one by itself, maybe if I turned it up so you could hear it, there we go. seems a few volume buttons are not working properly, but you get the main idea. That continually builds. The wind intensity itself is pretty basic. It's mostly white noise sounding, so there's not much to it. It's just near the end there's some whistling from the wind. The raindrops, on the other hand, are kind of a let me close this. Let me show you some of the system managers here. So I'll start actually just with this base weather manager. This is going to be your parent class, I guess. This is where you're going to put the logic of how the weather system behaves. So all it's doing right now is that at the very start, once I hit play, it just takes the default values and applies them. This could be used, you could use like a timer or something to vary these values to create a dynamic weather system that's happening in real time in the game. And you can pass these values to the skybox or whatever materials or particles you use to generate it, the weather. They're meant to be used so you can use them for everything, and they can control everything, as opposed to just the audio system and then trying to figure out a way for everything else involved to sync up to that. This allows you to send these variables everywhere and have everything respond in time correctly. So that's just that's all I've got in the this is all I have in the wind manager so far. I haven't really decided to build anything out yet, but you could using this. The rain manager, or precipitation manager, to be more correct. These aren't being used yet, but what this is doing is, as I'm changing the storm intensity, first off, it's updating the clouds, so you get this cool clouds coming in when you change the intensity. But it's also adjusting the playhead time on the synth so that it is spawning grains in the correct spot of the WAV file. And then, of course, it's generating a droplet spawn count, which at the moment is way too high. I'm currently working on reducing this. This is very much a work in progress. And then it's just doing some checks to make sure that if the intensity is 0, that we turn the synth off so you don't hear any storms. But if that changes back to a different value, that you turn it back on. The two interesting things about this system are actually the raindrop spawning and the thunder spawning systems. This is actually going to be based on the precipitation type, which is controlled by temperature. So if I go back to update temperature, when the temperature changes, it checks that value. Right now I have a basic conversion to like a fake Fahrenheit system. I just multiply the normalized value from 0 to 1 by 100, and that way I have a temperature system from 0 degrees Fahrenheit to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I check which range it is in. If it's above 40, it's rain. If it's in between 32 and 40, it's sleet. If it's below 32, it's snow, and I just send it back, so that when I get back to my event graph, it does a check on that to see if it's sleet or rain, and it spawns raindrop sounds around the player, currently using a nav mesh. It picks points around the player and just plays a sound at that location. Whether it's light raindrops, a mix between light and heavy for the medium rain, or heavy raindrops for when it's really coming down. The thunder system works in a similar manner, where it's using the intensity, which is just kind of breaking up the storm intensity value into ranges, and then doing a bunch of random calculations to determine how many thunder sounds are going to spawn, and then based on another random value, picks a location and then plays the corresponding sound into the I would like to get these spatialized to benefit anyone in 5.1 or more intense audio systems, but right now this is kind of just focused on stereo to lay the groundwork for everything. So now the wind manager works essentially the same way as precipitation. The event graph is pretty much the similar setup, initializing the granular synth, making sure the playhead time is 0, starting the synth, and then setting the timer for the gust spawning, which only happens if the wind value is above 0. The wind intensity value, when it changes, it updates the playhead time and makes sure the synth has a note on or note off based on what that value is, just so we don't have a synth running when it's not, or a synth that's audible when there's no wind, versus a synth that is audible when there is. Just making sure that there's no weirdness going on. The wind gusts are essentially the same thing as the thunder spawns, just at slightly different values and slightly different random counts, to make it feel a little bit more natural, a little bit as unpredictable as I can make it, while still having enough control to make sure that things aren't being totally out of control. I would say that this also has to be altered, as you probably heard when we were first going through it. The wind the gusts seem to overlap each other a little too often. That's just some value tweaking in here to solve that problem. So that's all I got so far. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by it. The temperature really doesn't do anything other than tell the raindrops whether it's water, sleet, or no raindrops, because you don't really get raindrop sounds when it's snowing. I may find some unique way to handle snow. Still a work in progress, but I figure I'd show this off, as I've been working on it for about a few months now, and I'm kind of happy with the progress, and I'm looking forward to refining it, optimizing it, and hopefully making it as good as it can be. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys hopefully when it's done.